after the excitement of last week when the European Super League surfaced and was eliminated within 24 hours. We got back, to some extent anyway, to football matters at the weekend. The Carabao Cup final, which is the old League Cup with a new sponsor, took place at Wembley. Manchester City won it for the fourth year in a row. Liverpool had another shocking result at Anfield. And Manchester United played Leeds in what I'm reliably informed was one of the worst games in history. We're joined now by John Giles to talk about all of this stuff. John, let's start with your old club, Leeds, and Manchester United. Home game for Leeds. You watched all of it. I only watched a bit of it. You told me it was awful.
Yeah, you didn't miss much, Eamon. No, I thought it was a very, very poor game. Very, very little goal out incidents. It was just a bit drab. Yeah. And I'd say Man U, if there was anybody going in with just about,
yes.
And Leeds just stuck at it. So, no, it wasn't a good game to watch. I mean, no goals in it. It didn't look like there were going to be many goals anyway, so it wasn't good. But what did come out of it, Eamon, watching it, is that Fernandes has been a huge player for Manchester United since he's come to the club. And on the weekend, Phillips, the Leeds midfield player, man-marked Fernandes.
Yeah, Phillips is in the England squad and played in the friendlies in the international break there. He's a useful player, isn't he?
Oh, he's very good, Eamon.
Yeah.
He's a strong lad. He's a good athlete. He distributes the ball well. But he was given a man-marking job on Fernandes, and in my opinion, put him out of the game.
Right.
So if other teams are watching that, because Fernandes doesn't play in a deep position, as we know, and I know I've said it often enough, he's more forward of the midfield players, right? And if you get somebody man-marking him, it's very, very him to get into a position to free himself.
Yes.
Because if you're a deep line, a midfield player, an ordinary midfield player, then you can go a little bit deeper if you're man-marked and get your marker to come after you, and then he leaves space behind him.
Yeah.
But if you're in the position that Fernandes is in, he's already in that space.
Yes.
So he hardly got a kick of the ball now. To be fair, Phillips did a good job on him. And if Fernandes is not playing well, then it's very difficult for Manchester United to play well. So if other teams are watching that, I'd say they could cop on to the Fernandes situation if and when they're playing against him.
Now, the other interesting feature of Manchester United's season, it's fascinating really, is that they bought Donny van de Beek from Ajax, paid 40 million, John. He never plays. He came on as sub again in the last 5 minutes, which seems to be what they do with him. That's a very strange situation. It suggests that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really didn't buy him, and maybe Ed Woodward bought him, who's about to depart or at the end of the year. But it's a very odd way to spend 40 million, isn't it, to have a guy sitting on the bench?
Well, yeah, I think when you're getting a team together, Eamon, as you know, you have to have a balance to it.
Mm.
If you go back to Manchester United, they had Keane and Scholes and Beckham, and they were all different players. In their own way, great players in their own right, but different players. But I find Van de Beek, is it? His name, Van de Beek, is a very similar player to Fernandes.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yeah.
They play virtually in the same position. Yeah. Now, I don't think Solskjaer is in charge of the incomings.
No.
At Manchester United. I just don't. I don't feel that at all.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to be picking players in for 40 million, you have to have a balance to it. He has to be different to the other players that you have, particularly Fernandes, who's such a good player.
Yep.
That's why they can't play together. Well, they can play together, but it doesn't work, Eamon. Because they're very, very similar in what they do.
The golden rule when you're buying a player, John, is he going to improve the squad?
Exactly.
And how?
Yes.
And not, is he going to replicate what we already have?
Yeah, exactly. It's like having to just clear a little bit. You have a good left back who's a good left footer, left back. And you buy another left back.
Yeah.
And it's the only position they can play in.
Yes.
So that's the way I describe it with this lad coming in. I think he's a good player if and when he plays. But he's very, very similar to Fernandes. And Fernandes is a better player than him. So it's 40 million that definitely could have been spent in another position.
Now, Paul Pogba came on from off the bench, 15 minutes to go. What's going on there?
Well, what a lot of managers say, well, we're resting players or we're resting in this. But if you have a player that's as important as Pogba seems to be to Solskjaer, well, there was a few days in between the matches. So he didn't rest Fernandes, for example, and put the other lad in. I don't know with Solskjaer. That's the thing. I just don't follow his logic at all.
Yeah, no, and well, the logic here might be, if you were to stretch it, to say that they are now assured of second place, which they are. They'll be in the Champions League, and they want to try and win the Europa League this year, which really, given what's left in it, they should have a big chance of doing. Anyway, just to finish on Leeds, Man U, Bielsa continues to do well. I mean, they've had a really good season, John. They're halfway up the table, just behind Everton and Spurs, ahead of Arsenal.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually break the bank, did they? They bought one player I like, Rafinha, for 21 million. But they didn't go out and spend a lot of money. No,
and he didn't play on Saturday.
He was injured, that's right.
They played the other one. What's the other lad's name? Is it Costa or something? The other guy they paid a few quid for is not so much. But
Costa.
Yeah, he hasn't spent fortune by any means. I mean, he's turned a group of players that were probably there. Most of them were there when he got there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and he's got
and again, another thing that's happened, as we know, Spurs are going to need a manager, Eamon.
Yeah.
And Bielsa he's been offered a new contract and hasn't signed it.
Yeah, he's probably waiting for the big clubs to come.
Well, it could be. You never know, Eamon, because in Levy's case, his contract is up at the end of the season, so it's not going to cost him anything to get him in.
Yeah.
And the way he plays the game would suit what's good to consider the traditional way at Spurs.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on it.
Yeah, okay. Now, one thing we kept an eye on yesterday, John, was the Carabao Cup final, City and Spurs.
Yeah.
Couple of things. I mean, it's the fourth time they've won it in succession. It's not a particularly prestigious trophy to win. They looked very strong, very committed. They looked like he picked his best-ish team. And the Spurs were desperate, weren't they, John?
No show, Eamon. Never showed up.
Was it Harry Kane did not look fit?
No, he didn't look fit, Eamon. He didn't. He didn't play the other night, and the ankle injury he got.
Yes.
You don't get, well, mostly you don't get, if it's that type of injury, you don't get over it that quick. No, but he didn't look himself anyway, Eamon.
No.
He didn't look himself. And Spurs looked themselves in many ways. And if you got Harry not playing, not fit, and Son, no show, you're going to be struggling, Eamon.
Actually, Son, curiously, at the end of the game, sat down on the pitch and he broke into tears.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I love him. I think he's a real good player and a real good man, a good pro. He avoided a fate worse than death with South Korea. He had to go and they had to win the Asian Championship or whatever it is. And if they didn't win, he was doing 2 years in the army. Right at the peak of his career. And boy, he drove them.
He might wish he was there now, Eamon. He might wish he was there now. The way Spurs are going.
Yeah.
I'm on the joke.
No, he probably does. He's
No, it was very sad. I'd say I think he's a really good lad. I know you do as well. A terrific player, Eamon. And I think he realises what a mess we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a day like that, they never showed up. They were terrible Spurs. And what's going on at the club as well. Apparently, he did get on very well with Mourinho. So Spurs is a mess at the moment. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's what got to him. It wasn't just that because they were beaten. It's what where are we? Where are we Spurs?
Yes.
Where we should be, and where are we at the moment?
Yeah,
I think it's dreadful for those type of players.
Yeah, and he didn't field a great team. I have to say, John, brought Harry Winks back, didn't play well. And a guy called Celso, who's an Argentinian, he was subbed in the end for Sissoko, but he looked terrified, frightened. I mean, going to Wembley for those foreign players particularly is a big deal. Playing Manchester City is a very, very big deal. They didn't really look up for it. Højbjerg, for example, who's a good, tough midfield player and did all right when Mourinho was there, didn't really put the boot in, didn't really get involved. So there's a major problem there. The problem for City, John, despite all the possession, I've been watching them carefully now for a long time. Since Aguero got injured, they haven't got a 20-goal-a-year man. And they're dominating games, balls fizzing around the box. They don't have an out-and-out finisher, do they? And I think that might hurt them in the Champions League.
Well, it obviously, you're not scoring there. When you're on top as much as they are in most of the matches, and yesterday, I mean, you know, Aguero was exceptionally good, as you know. And that's a huge loss to them. And it's very difficult to replace them unless they pay out the big money, which they might do. Might go for Harry Kane. You know, they might go with a couple of lads that we talked about before.
Was the obvious one.
Haaland, yeah.
He's the obvious one.
Yeah, he's the obvious one. And they have the money to do it, Eamon.
Yeah.
I would imagine as more than anybody else. So I think you're right. I mean, Aguero was scoring like 25, 30 goals a season.
Yeah.
And he's a huge loss to them.
Jesus, John, I've been watching him for a while, and I don't think he's honest. He came there with a big reputation from Brazil. He was on the bench yesterday. He's not been playing, John. I backed him to be first goal scorer on a few matches, which means you watch them very carefully. But he's, centre forwards who doesn't want to go in the box, wants to drop deeper, doesn't want to go in where it hurts, really. And so he's not going to do it for him. If he couldn't get in the team yesterday, that's probably him on the way out. So they do need to buy a striker for Champions League purposes, but also for Premier League purposes. Yeah,
well, I think they will. Name it. You know, they have a big squad. I mean, they just hammered Spurs. I know they only scored one, but they actually hammered Spurs. I mean, I wouldn't give up on Jesus yet, Eamon. No. I think he's still young. He hasn't had the best of times. I think Sterling could play better than he's played. Yeah. Even yesterday, and I see the papers today, he said I didn't think he played well at all. But they're getting the goals. They're getting the goals from somewhere. Mahrez has chipped in.
And Foden. Let me ask you about
Foden. Foden is a good player. Foden is going to be a top notcher.
Right. No, because there's been an awful lot of talk about him. People are raving about him. I was slow to the party, as it were. I just didn't know. Tell me what you think.
I think he'll be a top notcher. He's only 20 now.
Yes.
And what he does now is what very few players are doing is taking people on and going past them.
Yes.
He's able. You don't see many players doing that. That's why you get a lot of cross-field passing and that, because he can get on the ball and he's very, very quick. His control is good and he can go by them in tight positions.
Yes.
And that's what you need. That's what all teams need that. But he can do that.
Yeah.
And he can finish.
Right.
He's a good finisher. He's scored a lot of goals for them this season coming on.
Yeah.
On the thing. So I think he'll be a winner for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been critical of Guardiola in some way, critical of the cult, should we say, of Guardiola, not of his ability as a coach, because clearly he has nurtured Foden over the past 2 or 3 years, as indeed he has, and improved him. He improved De Bruyne, he improved Sterling, really. I mean, these are players who were at other clubs, and Mahrez even has... I wouldn't say he's improved since his Leicester days, but he certainly hasn't gone backwards. And your favourite, Gundogan, gets all the goals for them now, John.
Well, he does. Well, but Gundogan, I watched him again yesterday, Eamon, and unless he's scoring goals, Eamon, he irritates me, and I don't know that that's fair or not. In the middle of the field, as a midfield player, I mean, 90% of the time, he passes the ball sideways or backwards.
Yeah.
He never hits a decisive ball, turn on it and put somebody through. So the goals he scored have been very, very good. But you want more from a midfield player, to be getting on the ball. And you never see him go past anybody.
No.
Now, he has done well for City, there's no doubt, with the goals that he scored. So they have a few players to come in. Like, he didn't get rid of players. He lost a lot of players, over the company and players like that.
Yes.
And he lost. And he has got them back now. I think the signing of Diaz, I think neither of us were very keen on him when he first came. has made a huge difference to them.
Yeah, and
definitely.
John Stones, who made a revival, was back on the bench yesterday because in fact, he wasn't even on the bench, so maybe he was injured. But the sort of Laporte, who was playing alongside him, did okay. Scored the winning goal from a set piece. Now, this guy shouldn't have been on the pitch, John. He got one yellow card, but he should have had 2 yellow cards. Perhaps if he'd have got the first yellow card, maybe the ref wouldn't have given him the second one.
Now, I think you're right in the second part there. I think if he'd got the first yellow card, he wouldn't have made the tackle for the second yellow card.
Right. Okay.
That's right. He should have. Actually, he should have got a yellow card in the first one.
Yeah.
And if he get the obviously he should be off. But I don't think he would have taken the fella down if he'd known as a defender, I'm off.
Now,
I don't think.
Before we finish with that game, John, Gareth Bale did not start. Now, Ryan Mason was standing manager. He won't be there for long. He's a former player who got injured. He's only about 27. I can't understand how you wouldn't play Gareth Bale if he's fit and available, which he was. There's no sense in that, is there?
I don't think so. But what was the sense of bringing him on loan with Mourinho? If I don't think Mourinho did bring him on loan, actually. I think that was one of Levy's strokes.
Well, I think Madrid were desperate to get rid of his. He's on 600 grand a week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the pain. But I don't. Mourinho didn't play him, Eamon.
No, he didn't start him. No.
No, I think Mourinho thought, I don't want him.
Yeah.
And Levy says, well, you're having him, whether you like that, because it would have looked good bringing him back from the supporters' point of view.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he was a bit hero, as we know, before he went. And I think in Levy's case, he thought, well, this will make me popular.
Yeah.
Don't see, Mourinho wasn't in charge of the situation. With Dele Alli, for example, Mourinho wanted him to go out on loan.
Yes. And
Levy stopped it.
He did, yeah.
So even Mourinho wasn't in charge of the situation. But Mourinho definitely didn't play. I mean, if you buy Bale or get Bale on loan, Eamon, with his reputation, you're going to play him. He didn't play him. He played about half a dozen games for Spurs, and loads of those games he was taken off. So Mourinho didn't want him.
I'd say Daniel Levy thought it was his birthday when he was invited to join the European Super League. Spurs won one title in their history 60 years ago in 1961, John, when we were at our peak. And
well, they won a couple. I mean, they did win a couple more than that. I mean, they won the double. They won the double one year, and they won the cup a few times.
Well, no,
they haven't won the league.
They won the double. They won the double in 61.
I know they did.
Yeah,
but that's the last time they won the league. But they won the cup quite a few times.
Yeah, they won a couple of cups. Yeah,
a few cups since then. That's what kept them going. The supporters going, Eamon. But never really challenged for the league since 61.
No,
which is outrageous from Spurs' point of view.
Okay, let's talk about Liverpool, John. A remarkable game again against a low in the table team, Newcastle United, and it's kind of. I love Steve Bruce. I know you do. Great professional. Was a very, very good player for Manchester United. Captain of Manchester United. Great football man, I think. I've watched him suffer at a lot of clubs, not just in the bottom of the Premier League, but going from promotion, he got Hull promoted to the Premier League. He always seems to be called in to save the day, and I wasn't unhappy when they got their equaliser. They deserved it. Liverpool's malaise, John, is what?
First of all, we said when Van Dijk and that, and it was going to be the defence. But it actually, when you look at the stats and that, it hasn't been the defence that's let them down.
Yeah, they can't score.
The forwards, Firmino's not scoring goals. Mane's not scoring goals in the way that they were, and they had great chances on Saturday.
They did, yeah.
That week,
yeah.
But they're not putting them away.
Yeah,
and which is amazing from them with the amount of goals that they were scoring.
Yes,
over the last couple of years. Salah is still scoring them, but the other two used to chip in, more than chip in. They were very, very good, but they missed some chances, Eamon, and they have been missing chances. They haven't scored many goals at all this season, especially the top three, who were fantastic players for Liverpool.
Yeah, now they playing a high line, shambolic defending, John, and Newcastle really could have had. They had an equaliser turned down by VAR for a so-called handball, which really wasn't.
No, it should have been allowed. It was
been a goal.
ridiculous. Yeah,
The VAR situation, John, is mental. Now, I know what you're going to say. It's not the technology. And of course it isn't the technology. But almost every game now, there's
But I mean, did you see the interpretation that they put in recent times? I didn't know on the goal that this was disallowed. Right?
Yeah, I do.
Think
The interpretation is if it hits you anywhere on the hand, I think.
No. There's a further thing to it, Eamon.
If your hand is in an unnatural position.
No. In Wilson's case, when it hit him on the hand as he did, if it had gone to a colleague and he put it in the back of the net, it stood.
Really?
Yeah. Now, how do you blame VAR for that, Eamon? Do you know what I mean?
No.
That's something that the referees have made up. Now, that is ridiculous. Yeah. And that's what's happened with most of it. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion. But I heard a fellow saying that was incredible. That in Wilson's case, he didn't mean to handle it anyway.
No.
So it goes on. But if that had fell to a colleague and he stuck it in the net, it was okay. Now, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, and that's what's happened to it. It's the interpretation. Stupid stuff, Eamon.
I think it's unnerved the referees as well, John. In every game we see, there's another incident. We'll come to it now. It's the West Ham Chelsea game. Chelsea won 1-0 and Timo Werner scored a goal, which is in itself notable. The Balbuena, the West Ham defender, right back. He was sent off, John, and he was sent off as a result of a VAR intervention. The referee in normal time, Chris Kavanagh, he didn't see anything. Then they alerted him through VAR. He went to the sideline, he looked at the monitor, and then he went back. He produced a red card. Now, David Moyes went crazy, what he said after the game was, that referee has never played football, otherwise he'd understand the situation. And that was the consensus among the match analysts and everybody else. And I kind of agreed with that. But you did see Balbuena follow through, as it were.
I wasn't so sure, Eamon. I mean, I heard all the pundits saying, I think he could have avoided kicking him, Eamon.
Right.
That's what I think. Now, I can't. Nobody can be sure.
Nobody can argue with you about these things, John, because you
are
an expert.
Chilwell was in front of me. He wasn't even gone into the tackle. He wasn't near enough to tackle. And I think in that situation, you can kick the ball down the line and stop it. Stop your leg.
Yeah.
I really do. You can, and you wouldn't follow through. Do you know what I mean? You might just touch the opponent, Chilwell.
Yeah.
You might just touch him. But you wouldn't be kicking him the way he kicked him. I think he followed through, and I think he knew what he was doing.
And red or yellow?
I'd have given him a yellow.
Yellow, yeah. It definitely...
I would have given him a yellow. I wouldn't have sent him off for it. No, but I don't think he was innocent in what he was doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it was as outrageous. Don't forget, from any manager, Moyes is on the far touchline, Eamon.
Yeah.
Right. He's on the far touchline. And to be quite honest, you can't judge that well from that distance.
No.
You just can't.
I can't, no. But,
and managers will say, and if I was a manager, I'd probably say, no, that's ridiculous. Because it's your head up, and that's the right word, when you're on the touchline doing that. But it's a long way from where David Moyes was to be saying what he said, in my opinion. Okay. And I'm only going to that the replays that I think he could have avoided following through in the way that he did. Because Chilwell wasn't going into the tackle, Eamon.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No, he wasn't. No. I think he did just put a bit of extra on the ball and followed through with his boot. I agree with you. Yellow card would have been...
yellow card. Yeah, yellow card, and that's it.
Sufficient punishment. Yeah. Now, John, this is a big week, incidentally, for Champions League football. Chelsea, you have a high regard for this new coach, Thomas Tuchel, PSG before, German coach, and I must say, I'm not sure that you're right, but you mostly, 99% of the time you are right. I don't see goals in their team. It'll be fascinating semi-final against Real Madrid. I'm not sure where, apart from Mason Mount, I don't think Pulisic, he's young, he's American, I don't think he's ever going to score. And goals are supposed to be what he does. Timo Werner, after he scored a tap-in on Saturday, he missed another sitter. And I don't know where the goals are going to come from. But you like what you see.
Yeah, I think they won't. They will concede, apart from West Brom a couple of weeks ago, they've conceded very few goals.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll give many goals away.
Right.
Obviously, they have the ideal situation. You have forward scoring as well. Now, maybe Werner might get a bit of confidence from it.
Yeah.
But I think the way, just his attitude, Eamon, I think he demands an awful lot of the players.
Yes.
Demands it, you know. And they're obviously buying it, but don't have to buy into it. They're doing what the manager wants them to do. So they're not going to concede many goals. And they have Werner, if he might, he's just lacking confidence, Eamon, you know, which is a lot for a striker. I mean, he has scored goals when he first came to the club, and he's missed one or two, and that happens with strikers.
Yes.
And maybe with one or two of the others, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not going to have to score many goals, I don't think. I think the defence and the way they play and getting people working, he demands a lot from them, and he's getting it from them.
Yeah. Well,
I know what you're saying. Obviously, the ideal situation is to do what Liverpool did last year, with all of them scoring and not conceding goals, which is great. But they might be good enough to defensively. Just to need the one or two that's needed to do it.
Well, it'll be really interesting now. They go and play Real Madrid. The first leg is away in Madrid, and we'll be able to contrast and compare their performance there against Madrid with Liverpool's, which wasn't great. And that's tomorrow night's game. And there's the other semi-final is PSG Manchester City on Wednesday, which again will have its own fascination because you have Neymar and Mbappe. Mbappe scored 2 goals on Friday night, then went off injured, they said. So I don't know whether he'll play. But they're 2 interesting games to look forward to.
They're brilliant. They're brilliant, Eamon. I mean, if you go back to the Real Madrid match, I mean, Liverpool gave them at least 2 goals, Eamon.
Yeah.
Away from home.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't looking all that great, Real Madrid. And you can't afford, as we know, you can't afford to do that. I can't see Chelsea doing that.
Right.
In any way, give them a goal. I can't see them giving them a goal at all.
Yes.
So I think they're in with a show. But obviously you do have to score as well. But if you're defending well, I mean, you don't need to score many.
I must say, it dawned on me when I was watching the Liverpool Real Madrid both legs, which they were crippled with injuries, Madrid. Varane and Ramos, the 2 central defenders, out. Zidane didn't have anything other than squad players, except in midfield, where he had Klose, the German, he had Modric as well, and Casemiro, who's a holding midfield player. That was strong. That was as good as they could have hoped for, although Modric is 34 and a veteran. But that part of the Madrid team was powerful and very influential in the 2 games against Liverpool. But he had a lot of squad players playing at the back and even up front alongside Benzema. So Vinicius is a young lad from Brazil, but he is a young lad who played really well and scored an important goal. So he's never really got the appreciation, Zinedine Zidane, has he, John?
No.
You know, that the Guardiola, say, or Klopp, or others. But he's won 3 Champions League on the bounce. He's kept Madrid alive at a time when they don't have the money to buy Galacticos. And he doesn't make many mistakes. When Madrid came to Anfield, Madrid acquitted themselves really well. They defended really well. They were calm. They used the ball. And I thought, hold on a minute. We've seen this man as a player, which he was magnificent, and now as a coach, and yet no one ever raves about him, do they?
No, well, he never promotes himself, Eamon. And I think the attitude towards him was, when he went to Madrid, when he won the trophies, well, he came into a great team.
Yes.
And no big deal. Anybody could have done it.
Ronaldo was taking all the limelight.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Anybody could have done it. I wouldn't be too sure about them, Eamon. I mean, at Anfield, Salah missed a chance in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, golden chance. Yeah.
And Courtois made a couple of great saves.
He did, yeah.
In the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't stroll through it. I'm not saying you're saying that, but they did have a few chances.
Yes.
Liverpool in that particular match,
Yeah.
and gave away. I'm going back now. I'm not taking the credit away from Madrid because they well deserved to win it over the two legs, but they were given a couple of goals in Madrid.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. From Liverpool. So I would say that I'd say Chelsea will give them a bigger
test,
harder run. Eamon.
Okay, John. So it's great to talk to you. Just a final question about VAR and its effect on the game. Almost everybody now wants it abolished. I think everybody takes the point you're making. It isn't the technology per se, but it's the interpretation of it. And now the players, there was an awful lot of diving at the weekend, John, and they're screaming now. I mean, even in the cup final. But, I mean, guys are falling to the floor. There's nothing wrong with that. They're screaming.
Yeah, but that's been going on for a few years now.
It's not to
it's
do.
all part of the game.
No, but it's every game you watch now with this VAR in these empty stadiums. You can hear more. But the VAR factor, every goal that's scored, you're not sure, and it's just become a nuisance.
Well, it's become a nuisance for most of the time, but there's been a lot of good decisions on it, and the good decisions are never mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, whether they get rid of it or not, it's not going to affect my life in any way whatsoever. I can't be that bothered. But what I will say is that if they get rid of VAR, there's going to be more controversy than the VAR at the moment. And I'll tell you why. A situation arises and it's an obvious decision.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what we have now is the television replays, Eamon.
Yes.
Which will show every error that the referees make.
Yes.
Every error.
Yes.
And we'll be back to the old days. Was it in? Was it out? Was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty?
Yeah.
And then we'll still have the same controversies. You'll be saying it was a definite penalty, and I'll be saying I didn't think it was.
Right.
But it will show, if we get rid of VAR, it will show totally all the mistakes that the referees are making.
Yep. And they are making some mistakes. Okay, John.
Exactly. Always did, always will, Eamon. Right? That's why VAR is in the first place. VAR can be better. I wouldn't give up on it because I think there'll be chaos if we get rid of it now. Okay,
John. Thank you very much indeed. We'll talk tomorrow night when the Madrid Chelsea game is on.
Yeah.
And we'll also talk when PSG are playing Manchester City, which would be a real big match. I just wonder if you think City, with Diaz in the side now, Laporte as the central defensive partnership, really, this could be a big deal for them. If they win the Champions League for Pep, that will secure his legend, won't it? Because it's the one thing he didn't win when he went to Bayern Munich.
Well, it was only Bayern Munich. I remember he won 2 at Barcelona.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I would rather see, if I were a manager, Eamon, I'd rather win the league than the Champions League.
Yeah.
Over 38 matches.
Yes.
Because, if you look at the teams that win the...
Guardiola said that, actually.
Did he?
He did.
It's week in, week out, Eamon. It's consistent. I mean, don't forget, the year before last, we had Liverpool and Spurs in the final.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some of the teams that have won the Champions League, they've finished halfway up, going back over the years.
Yes.
Haven't been winning the league. But, the league took 38 matches. Week in, week out, you have to do it.
Yeah.
The Champions League is the Champions League. I mean, I think when Liverpool won it even, they'd lost 4 or 5 matches in the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas when they won the league last year, Liverpool, week in, week out. That's why I think most managers, certainly if I was a manager doing it, week in, week out, Eamon. That's the consistency that you want.
Well, that's the gold standard. Okay, John.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's John Giles. We're grateful to John, of course.